Okay. Hi, David. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really keen to have a chat to you about everything Chaser, but especially about your recent win as Addon of the Year at XeroCon UK. So lots to talk about. Welcome.
Brilliant. Well, no, thank you very much for having me. Thrilled to have the chance to chat, and we're huge admirers of which Addon. So yeah, great to speak today.
Thank you. Very cool. All right, so let's have a little bit of a chat about what Chaser does as an add-on and really where it came from. Obviously, you just won Add-on of the Year, but let's sort of walk through the journey of where you came from today all the way through to that great achievement.
Sure. So we launched 19th of August 2014. So okay. Chaser, for those who don't know, our mission is to tackle the scourge of late payment by automating that polite persistence that pays. So we really do what we say on the tin as a product in automating that process of credit control, debtor management to get cash into your bank account. So like I say, launched on 19th of August 2014. It was born out of, so my background is as an accountant and CFO. So I trained in practice and then headed up finance teams for a succession of small and medium businesses, all of whom sold payment terms. I had the good fortune to start working with Xero in one of those jobs, and that was my first move into technology as a business. So I got to learn a bit about software. And yeah, the idea for what is now Chaser was born from there.
Oh, excellent. So it was when you were using Xero as an accountant and helping clients with Xero, or in practice? So
it was using Xero in our business. So yes. I moved out of practice to a drinks business who didn't Xero. But that was my first experience of heading up a finance team that sold on payment terms.
Yes.
So I think that was probably the embryo, if you will, of there must be a better way of carrying out this process. But then it was my next job at a travel and lifestyle social network called Where Are You Now? So WAYN.com.
Okay.
Where we're using Xero, and yeah, that was my first encounter with cloud accounting. I got to learn a bit about software, and then yeah, everything sort of conspired together for the idea that is now Chaser, and yeah, I couldn't I couldn't look back.
Yes, excellent. Okay, tell me about the name Chaser. Obviously, it's perfect for an add-on that's chasing things. But how did you come up with the name Chaser? And did you have any other options that was sort of close second?
Sure. So actually, we started life as with an Italian domain. So we were autochase.it. So autochase as a business, and I've still got the very poorly designed by me very first T-shirts that we ever had somewhere.
Yes.
But the vision was always because auto had the car connotations, and you want to keep it as short as possible. So the dream was to always be kind of Chaser eventually. It was actually my co-founder Mark who it was about 4 or 5 months after we started working together back in September 2013. He discovered that the .io, which is actually Indian Ocean, but it works very well.
I was going to ask what that was about.
It works very well for us in the sense of get paid what you're owed with Chaser.io.
Perfect. Oh, I love it. Yes.
And that domain was available, and it all conspired. So we registered that domain, and we were still in our beta testing stage at that point, so didn't bother with the name change at that point. But then around June time 2014, we made the transition over to Chaser as a name. So it was chasing chasing has always been central to us because of the widespread recognition of, however finance or accountant literate you are, you can really identify with, actually to get your invoices paid, chasing is the activity that you need to carry out. So it's really inclusive, it's really recognizable in that regard. So we were very fortunate that Mark recognised that the domain was available and secured it for us.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And as you said, the fact that it's so recognisable on so many levels, it's taking the accounting, words of data management and out of it, basically, which, doesn't mean anything to a lot of business owners. It's chasing that makes the difference. So very cool. So let's talk about the sort of journey from you've come up with this idea of chasing and going, there's got to be a better way. How long was it between you coming up with the idea until it actually existed, I guess? You sort of mentioned sort of about a year's span there. And how do you do that? How do you go, I'm going to start an add-on, and then it suddenly appears a year later? What happens? How does that work?
So with the benefit of hindsight, it all looks really kind of well considered and well orchestrated. But truth be told, it was anything but. So I think the idea fully formed, it would have been around this time about 3 years ago, when I started working at Wayne. And it was funny, it sort of hit like a bit of a sort of a thunderbolt, really, of, oh my God, this is something I've got to do. And actually, with the benefit of hindsight, I left that job at Wayne too earlier to go potentially part-time there for a bit in the course of finding the right person to work with, building iterations of prototype. But I was a bit too hasty to get started. I was very fortunate that I ended up doing some interim CFO work for a friend's software company who just raised their first big round of financing. So that was great, because that was to fund early development of Chaser. But I really underestimated how hard it would be to find the right person to start working with. I think I looked in the sort of the immaculate conception sense of everything was going to fall into place all at once, and that's not true at all. Startups are messy, and actually what I've done is just kind of broken it down, get from one stage to the next. And it took me, so from resigning from Wayne, it took me a good 4 or 5 months to really get off the ground and find the right person to start working with. And in the end, that was with Mark as a contractor, him working alongside his then full-time job on Chaser as it is now, Auto Chaser as it was then, as an interesting side project. And things went well. We tested it. We were incredibly fortunate. So we've had some incredible beta testers. So Gail and Carol at Bainbridge Lewis, Penny at Rowdens, and Emma and Jonathan at Fresh Financials. And it was great. They won bookkeeping of the year. At Eurocom, which was just really nice because I remember back in sort of May 2014 when they were first testing. So it's really nice to see the sort of the journey progress for them as well. But yeah, just like it was all about kind of getting from one stage to the next, getting feedback, moving forwards, and in the end, if things went very well, and I stopped doing the interim CFO work I was doing. Mark stopped the previous job he was at, and we went kind of in on Chaser. But that was June 2014, so it was good kind of 14, 15 months from when I first handed in my resignation at Wayne. And so again, where we are now, couldn't be kind of happier with the results, but definitely I think, looking back on it, it is kind of messy, it is uncertain, and so just breaking it down in terms of getting from one stage to the next, rather than for that immaculate kind of conception of everything's going to fall into place and then we're going to build this. I think I wouldn't go about it in quite a sort of linear a fashion and mindset, were I to kind of be approaching it again.
Yes. Okay. I think when you're saying, like you said, you left your other job maybe in hindsight a little bit earlier, maybe you wouldn't be this far along if you hadn't. It sort of gave you that push to make sure that things worked exactly as they should. Otherwise, I see people all the time in different business coaching groups and things that I do, and if you don't push them, or if they don't get pushed, they just keep on dabbling along. Not that I think that you would, but it certainly all worked out as to plan, with a lot of dedication and hard work, I'm sure. I mean, absolutely. I think we couldn't be more thrilled. And
you get to like I say, it's in terms of the outcome, working with Mark, the incredible team we've got, really, thrilled to be where we are. The award at Xerocon was, just incredibly humbling and a great kind of testament to the amazing kind of partners and users that we've had the ability to work with over the last, what is it now, just over 18 months.
Yeah, it's not long at all. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, cool. All right. Let's talk about then the growing pains from going from a startup or you've got the add-on developed, you've had it beta tested, and you're going through that process of obviously taking it to market once you're happy with the product. From what I see, there's a lot of obviously growing pains that add-ons go through in the market as the customer base grows, and your team grows, and all of those things that happen. Sort of give me your thoughts on the growing pains that happen and how you've avoided them, or what pains you had and how you avoided them.
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge is, and continues to be, deciding what to do with our time, because the nature of, I always sort of characterize it as, you manage to find a right door to open and you open it successfully, and inevitably it then just takes you into a room with lots more doors. That's the kind of, well, it's the amazing thing, but it's also a really important challenge to get right around doing things that resonate in the market, because it then spawns a lot more opportunities. So our single, as we always say, our single most limiting factor is the time that we have, and so the most important thing that we need to do is decide how to allocate that appropriately. So that and that's a really, it's an amazing kind of challenge to have. I never realised the extent to which, in other businesses that I've worked in, you don't have that challenge where you already have the kind of the certainty. It's not such a sort of an innovative kind of fast-moving environment. It's it's an incredibly kind of exhilarating challenge to have.
Yes. Okay, talking about how you manage your time, one of the questions I wanted to broach was really sort of the day in the life of a founder of an add-on. And of all people that I deal with, and I deal with obviously a lot of add-ons through what we do at Which Add-on, I have to say you're number one, the most proactive, responsive, person that we speak to. And also, if you either are in touch with us before we're in touch with you, or you respond to every single email personally that's sent, directly through what you go through, and constantly keeping people up to date, constantly marketing. You were the first ones putting out information when Xero brought out invoice reminders with a proactive approach to, this is how it's done. How do you do it all? How do you go through that process, and how do you manage your time to make sure that you can provide such a high level of service?
Well, firstly, I work with an incredible team, honestly. The people we have, and you talk about growing pains. There's a huge extent to which you learn by doing, in terms of what you're looking for from a team perspective. But so kind of thrilled and fortunate to have the great team that we have in terms of in terms of kind of managing our time. I think it, from our perspective, it stems from a real kind of dedication to, like, we're just really passionate, like, and that links to hiring the right people, right? Do you see it?
Of course.
They don't necessarily need to kind of eat, sleep, breathe, kind of cloud accounting, amazing ecosystem coming in the door. They don't need to have worked within it, but they need to kind of get excited by it, because it is an incredible opportunity to get excited by it, and we work in and around so many great people who are truly excited by it. And that, I think, so to look at it from the different perspective, it just doesn't really seem like work. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, not looking at it work, right? Looking at it as kind of something, a lot more than that. It's a real kind of passion for us to solve a really, we're very fortunate. We solve a really important problem. It's very humbling to have the opportunity that we have to make such a kind of an important impact on people's lives, and to to get to interact with these people as well. Like, it's a really, really, I feel incredibly fortunate to get to do the work that we get to do, and I think everything kind of comes from there. At different stages, you have to cannibalize your own way of working, right? In terms of having that forcing factor of just so much to do, and he kind of, Stephen Covey kind of has his sort of 4 quadrants of urgent, important, which is always easy to deal with, and then that not ostensibly urgent and important, and ostensibly urgent but actually unimportant. And that challenge between those two is so kind of difficult, because the volume of ostensibly urgent and actually not that important only grows as the company and the business grows as well. So having discipline to be able to pinpoint on that. I don't really have an answer for how to do it, because from a personal perspective, I mean, I still feel like I suck at it. So try and be better today than you were yesterday, and repeat that pattern, and hopefully, over time you get you get better and better.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. That's really awesome. So, okay, what about the whole balance between when you're using or when you're starting an add-on, or when you're running an add-on? I worked for Unleash Software before, and I've coached a few add-ons through the process over the last few years, and take on people asking a lot of questions, especially at the startup phase. And one of the biggest struggles I find is with add-ons is how they balance between marketing, going out and obviously marketing and sales side of things, as well as the training and supporting the existing customers and building a training platform. And then, of course, there's the third part, and maybe there's more, but from my level, there's sort of the training support, the sales and marketing, and then there's obviously the product development. So how do you balance managing all of those different things? I see so many add-ons do sales and marketing and not really, and product, lots of product development, but then they don't have the time or the resources for the training and support. So it's not that they're not helping these existing customers. It's very difficult to balance. But how did you manage that process? Did you make sure you had lots of training and support up front and beforehand? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's really interesting. So I think it's Paul Graham of Y Combinator, the kind of the famous sort of Silicon Valley accelerator, in one of his essays talks about how it's much more important to delight 100 users than to have a product experience that delights 100 people, compared to having one that 10,000 people are sort of so ambivalent about. And philosophically, we really identify with that, and I think that's been part of our. So there definitely hasn't been a grand sort of master plan of here's how we're going to divide our time between product development, kind of support, and the whole of product experience, and then sales and marketing. But definitely underpinning all of that has been how do we deliver an amazing experience to early adopting users, such that we then have that foundation on which to build. Otherwise, I think you definitely fall into the trap of trying to scale prematurely on top of that. So but that's a really delicate balance to strike, because you can, again, the need to kind of sort of reinvent yourselves as well, like that's great, but at a certain time you then have to say, well, we've got the foundation now upon which to scale, and we need to shift into a different mindset. But definitely in the early stages, I think that served us really well, and again, it's far more important to have one person who's delighted than whatever 10 or 100 sort of feel okay. And with things like, so we're now the second highest kind of reviewed product of any of 500 plus add-ons after the seed bank, and we really feel that's a testament to that, of make sure that we've got something that has that sufficient clout of delight, and then that's a foundation upon which we can really scale.
Yes, definitely. And by putting your energy into obviously the customer service side of things and being able to achieve those reviews, I think at last look there was like 92 or something, or there's probably even more now, but 92 or 96 reviews, am I right? So
we're 139.
139 now. Okay, it's been a while since I've had a look, but excellent. So being able to get that's selling your add-on on its own because you've got those reviews. No, there's, as you said, not other than Receipt Bank, there's no one, and they've been around for a lot longer. There isn't any other add-ons that have received that, and that's selling. You're selling yourselves just by doing that, and that's obviously fantastic. That improves your point that looking after the existing customer base is the most important thing. One of the most important things. So, excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's talk about your journey to, well, you touched on it before in terms of working with the other business you said, the software company where you were the CFO and they raised money for their own development. Tell me a little bit about I understand you guys raised money just before you came to XeroCon here in Australia last year. Can you tell us the story of what happened and sort of how that happened, and any tips that you have for people that are going through that process?
Yeah, sure. So we raised just over £500,000 back in, it was at the very end of April 2015.
Okay.
So, and that was 2/3 from a sort of an early stage tech focused venture capitalist called Sussex Place Ventures, and then about a fifth of that from an angel fund called Beacon Capital, sort of tech-focused angel fund over here in London. And then, a couple of kind of angel investors, a guy who used to be sort of Richard Branson's right-hand man as sort of group finance director at Virgin, and really thrilled. So Craig Winkler, who is sort of co-founder of MYOB and very early investor and still director of Xero. We're absolutely thrilled to the investors that we did in terms of and I think this was advice I got, which was very good advice about try and kind of keep to as few like really great investors as possible in raising money, just because these are people you're going to want to and need to communicate with afterwards. So you don't want to have kind of like a PLC kind of style shareholder register, otherwise that's just going to eat up all of your time. So be really sort of selective and targeted about who are the people that you want to work with. We're incredibly fortunate with the investors that we have the ability to work with. In terms of so identify kind of who you want to work with, kind of have a really kind of compelling deck of what your vision is. Be all over LinkedIn to get kind of introductions. So the same principle as with, again, kind of applied to Chaser within the Xero ecosystem. I think a recommendation and introduction just carries more weight than just a cold email, because people put up and take notice. So really seek out people with whom you have a relationship with, who can introduce you into investors that you want to talk to. And then another great piece of advice that I got was enjoy it as well. Enjoy going and pitching, because the emotions are contagious, right? And it has such a huge impact if you're excited about doing it, when that's going to rub off on people, and if you're not, well, if you're not kind of excited about doing it, then you can't really expect the receiving end to get excited about what you're communicating. So that was a great piece of advice I got. The other piece of advice would just be, you need to be kind of resilient, because you're going to get told no loads, and that should be the case, because if that's not the case, I don't think you're building something ambitious enough. I don't think kind of venture angel funding is quite right for you, because everyone thinks, I see it, this is a great idea. Then in effect it sort of should have already been done. You know, you look at people who passed on, even the likes of Uber and Airbnb, you see quite a bit of people who passed on them at their early stages, because at the early stages, you know, to a lot of people, they will have sounded like crazy ideas. So if you get rejected a lot, the overwhelming majority of the time, that's nothing to be worried about. And remember, ultimately, at the end of the day, particularly this was for us when finding a lead investor, you only need to find one for whom it really kind of resonates, leaps off the page. You know, they get excited about it in the same way that you're excited, and then you're off to the races.
Yes. Excellent. Very cool. Okay. Very good advice. I think it's something that hopefully everybody will take on board, and it doesn't really matter what business you're in, whether you're running an add-on or you're an accountant, you know, growing your business, or just anyone in business that needs to go through that phase. I know personally, thinking of investment myself, and not that I have, but you know, the whole idea for me, maybe it's just as a female entrepreneur, is the pressure, and is the pressure that investors and outside people would put on not so much on the business, but just on the achievements of what you promise, I suppose. So I think that's something that comes up for me. Is that something that you have ever, you know, had to worry about, or something that put you off doing it, or you just believe in what it is, or maybe it's just a chick thing?
I think it depends on. I hear where you're coming from. I think it depends on who the investor is, because it's like, so we had a financial plan when we raised money, and I always think you have to have a financial plan when you raise money, but it's overwhelmingly, I think, to demonstrate that you can think in the way that you need to about what are the key drivers of your business, because you know, our financial plan was wrong. Like it will always be like massively wrong, and experienced investors know that, because they've been around. You know, they've got the kind of the body of experience to know that no one ever kind of actually it happens according to plan. Maybe in different businesses where it's much more sort of established, and okay, you know, we're setting up a new. But where it's an already sort of established business model, there is a lot more opportunity for certainty. There's so much uncertainty here. So I think the right investors will recognise that, and will understand that, and again recognise that, be pragmatic, that no good comes from sort of dwelling on that. It's about, you know, kind of a pragmatic. Okay, what's the best route forward? So I don't. I hear where you're coming from, but I think I think, you know, the right investor or investors won't worry about that, because it's half of the course. So what good is there in worrying about it?
Good point. I like that advice. It's very good advice. Very good. Okay, cool. So after you've got the funding, so you've had the idea, you've created the product, and you've worked on developing a happy customer base from the beginning, lots of beta testing and getting the product growing. Then you go through, obviously, it's growing. I'm guessing you first just started working with Zero Advisors in the UK and just focus on the UK market.
Yeah, we did, and yes, our first beta testers were in the UK, and I think we were listed on the Addon marketplace kind of globally from when we first went live. So we really, from day one, we picked up users from across Zero's global base. From a partner, accountant, and bookkeeper perspective, we were. The kind of the relationships we developed were I guess more more extensive kind of in the UK originally, but we got some certain introductions. So for example, Greg Tuckwell at Zero Books All Group was an introduction that we got back in sort of November 2014, and we're able to build and maintain and continue, you know, a huge, and it's the beauty of, well, obviously, you know, we're speaking, I'm in London, you're in Sydney, and we're able to have this, you know, it's just the amazing opportunity to properly build great relationships, kind of conversations like this. And it wasn't until, I think, June last year. So that would have been almost 9 months when first met Greg, when he was over in the UK, and then saw him when we went over for XeroCon in August. So yeah, it's been brilliant in that regard. So yeah, definitely in terms of volume, it came higher in the UK Fest just because of the Xero events that we were able to exhibit at. But like, for example, at XeroCon London a couple of weeks ago, we got to see Namita and George from Future Books, who are really active Singaporean kind of Xero partner. And we met them for the first time at XeroCon in Melbourne. It's great to see them at XeroCon London. So yeah, I mean, it's and that's a relationship we've been able to kind of cultivate and really grow in the intervening 6 months. So we're really fortunate. I think we have quite an opportune sort of time zone as well in the UK of kind of being in the middle from a GMT sort of Greenwich Mean Time sort of time zone perspective. So yeah, it works kind of very well for us. And yeah, that's we wrote we wrote an article for XE magazine about kind of going global from day one, how Xero changes a game, and it truly does, right? Because that exposure, that opportunity has been there for us from day one. It's just been about how early in the morning can you get up, how late late
do you want to stay up,
and aside from that kind of the sky's the limit.
Yes, definitely. Cool. Okay. Well, whilst we're talking about, we'll stick on the emerging markets and pushing into emerging markets or growing existing markets in your case. I speak to a lot of add-ons from America now that are looking to push into the Australian market. So there's usually sort of two things. One is the distance, and just really understand, not so much distance, but the difference, I guess, understanding the Australian market and whether the market needs it and those types of things. And the other side is localization. So for you guys, you're the same as us in terms of your dates and all those types of things. What sort of, did you have any struggles at all coming into the Australian market, or things that you went, oh, cool, we're going to the Australian market? Was there something that didn't work that you expected, or what worked, what didn't, I suppose, in that journey of getting out of the UK even more?
We're incredibly fortunate sort of doing what we do, because sort of English language aside, that so much of it translates. So there's the term over, in the UK, credit control is a lot more prevalent. In Australia, debtor management, but aside from that, and a few other kind of points. Well, there was one change, one improvement we wanted to make to the product, which was great. A piece of feedback around sort of currency symbols. So, for us in the UK, it can just be the pound sterling sign, but the information was outputting from Xero as AUD for kind of invoice amounts and amounts outstanding, and that's fine if you're an Australian business kind of invoicing a US business, for example. But if you are like the overwhelming majority, an Australian business invoicing a fellow Australian business, you're not going to say AUD. You're going to just put the dollar sign. And again, in the context of our kind of real commitment to automated humanity of replicating what you do if you were typing out these chasers by hand, because that's how they can be most impactful in getting your invoices paid. So the ability to kind of to choose to override that AUD currency symbol and use dollar sign instead within the chasers that you sent out, that was an important change for us to make that's now live. But aside from that, we've been kind of very fortunate in terms of the kind of the widespread applicability of and will never be done in terms of what we want and need to do to drive the product forward, but in terms of if it's relevant in Australia, then it's relevant in the UK and vice versa. And like time zones, for example, we had in there from day one, so the ability to set that so that your chase time goes out, to having, we learned a bit about Australian and New Zealand and US public holidays as well, so the ability not to choose on those. Again, real red flag of automation. So absolutely, there were things like that. But I think compared to, for example, we don't have to worry about sort of GST, VAT rules, because again, that would, that's worry before you get to our point, because ultimately it's just part of the outstanding balance of the invoice. So I think, again, we're conscious that we're quite fortunate in that regard of, the internationalization is not so much of a barrier for us as it would be for kind of other product categories.
Yes. And how big's your team now? And are they just UK and you've got some guys here in Australia as well, or have you got elsewhere as well? Where are your offices and your people? So.
No, not yet. So we're all out of the UK right now. Okay. But and it was great coming over for XeroCon back in August, and the level of excitement that we're able to generate from that. So I mean, right now we're able to kind of service everything from and there's a fair bit of early mornings and late evening that goes into that. But all out of the UK. But the plan is very much to looking at the example of kind of other successful add-ons. You mentioned kind of banks, sort of Spotlight, Crunchboards.
Yes.
That's very much. Obviously, there's only so much you can do remotely. It's great, but we're no illusion that kind of that's the full extent of what we want to do.
Yes. Is Xero the only accounting application that you link to at the moment?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. Any plans to connect to other ones at this stage?
So, I mean, long run we'll be accounting system agnostic, so that we can help the maximum number of businesses possible.
Yes.
But right now, like Xero's, again, I think that was a very good decision that we made sort of early on, of just focus on one accounting system. And I think we made a really good choice of which one to focus on with Xero. So that's worked really well for us. So absolutely, long run we'll want to be accounting system agnostic, but in kind of Xero and the Xero ecosystem has worked incredibly well for us, and we're thrilled to be a part of it.
Yes. Excellent. Okay. What about complementary add-ons? I don't know if this really is a suitable question for you, but I suppose I'll say it and we'll see where it goes. We've had a lot of thought here at Which Add-on with all the add-ons that we deal with, where you have, say, complementary add-ons like Vend, for example, which is for retail, and then you've got Deputy, which would manage rostering, and then you may have a payment service on the side of that it goes with Xero. So really talking about add-ons that work really well together. Is for you guys, I'm sort of thinking payment services or something like that, but what is it that you find, or what examples have you got of maybe add-ons that are working well together with you with Xero, or is there really no need for anything else when it comes to what you guys do?
So I think in terms of directly alongside us, so there are people like, for example, we're on the stand next to Creditor Watch, kind of at XeroCon in Melbourne. So that ability to kind of get credit checking information, there's a real complementarity there to what we do. And equally, we have, I think on the sort of sales invoice side, so I don't know the market in this regard so well in Australia, but for example in the UK, Market Invoice is a business which is a kind of peer-to-peer sort of invoice discounting platform. So there's a huge sort of relevance there around, well, if you've got outstanding sales invoices, then you're going to want to chase them to get them in the door. But equally, you might want to release some capital from them to be able to fund the growth. So not so much in a kind of a purely product sense, but absolutely in a way of thinking about, well, here are, in this new kind of incredible new paradigm of all the brilliant things you can do with technology, and on the sales invoicing side of thing, there is very much that kind of sort of best in class sort of complementary fit.
Yes. Definitely. Creditor Watch, as you said, is a great example because, if you get the Creditor Watch, for those that don't know, it's an add-on that analyzes the invoices and the customers that you have in your system and tells you whether that person's likely to have any issues against their name, black marks against their name type thing, or any, I can't think of what the word is at the moment, but black marks will do in terms of whether that customer can pay you or not. So that happening prior to that customer even becoming a customer, or once they initially start, obviously helps you manage your chasing better if that's something that's going to be, or something that needs to happen later on. So fantastic complementary add-on there to talk about. So I think too a differentiation you guys have to some of the other debtor management add-ons. A lot of the debtor management add-ons usually have behind them, you said debtor invoice discounting. I think over here we call it debtor financing. That's actually behind a lot of the add-ons, or a service in relation to chasing debts and things like that from a debt collection point of view and getting paid for that service. There's a lot of that sitting sort of behind those add-ons. But in your case, it's not, is it? It's just a service of chasing in relation to polite chasing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very much of the ilk of do one thing really, really well.
Yes.
And so and then have that kind of complementarity with others who do the other kind of adjacent thing really, really well. So yeah, we are entirely about that essential communication process, that polite persistence that pays.
Yes.
How do you best do that as a business to kind of expedite as far as possible that cash into your bank account, reduce debtor days, maximize that free investment from using us that you can then invest in growth and creating new jobs? Yes, definitely. We had a case study we did as a handout for Xerocon with one of it's a sort of dual-sided partner and one of their clients that they'd introduced, and their client, Metroline Security, they'd experienced, and we were able to track all of this. We have our kind of metrics framework underpinning it, so we can, and it's one of the beauties of Xero, we can do an objective kind of before and after comparison of what your debtor days or what your debtor days kind of as a result of using Chaser. We can look at what your kind of rolling last month's 12 months turnover was, so we're properly able to calculate to the penny, to the cent, kind of how much of a cash flow boost we delivered you. So for Metroline, it was a 19 debtor day reduction, and it was something like, I think it was about £60,500 of cash flow boost that we properly freed up for them that they could invest in their business as a result of that debtor day reduction. So yeah, we're very excited about this. There is a huge kind of problem there. You look at, it was $19 billion at last count was owed to Australian small and medium businesses in overdue invoices.
Yes.
Chasing is kind of key to addressing that, and we're very excited to be focused on how to best do that.
Yes. Excellent. No, that's great. You talked before about, you just talked about obviously exhibiting at Xerocon London, and you've come over here to Australia. What's your tips for people or whether it's accountants or add-ons, to get the best out of Xerocon? I know what I liked about what you did, but I'll come back to that in a minute. But what is it what are your tips for Xerocon exhibitors?
Well, I can, in terms of for attendees, I can refer them to our how to make the most out of Xerocon video series.
I didn't see that
on our YouTube channel. So you can kind of maybe put the link in the video afterwards. But, there were some great tips on there from kind of key sort of accounting partners, ecosystem figures. Gary Turner, the UK MD of Xero, and we actually got Rob Drury's tips as well. So there's some great ones in there. As an exhibitor, I think, so I've been at 3 Xerocons now, and it's absolutely incredible. I think to see it is to believe it. Before your first time exhibiting at Xerocon, no one can imagine that a kind of, what is ostensibly an accounting software conference can be this kind of just passionate and electrifying. So I think there is a very real element of to see it is to believe it, and talk to as many people who've exhibited previously beforehand to get information as possible. And then again, I go back to the kind of the enjoy it, have as much, as many conversations as you can, and have the ability to kind of follow up off the back of that, because it's just so kind of it's so frenetic on the day that it's about kind of going with the flow, losing sort of yourself in the moment of it and just enjoying it, and hopefully getting people's contact details to be able to follow up. But one thing that we've never we plan for every ZeroCon we've been at, and it's a Dwight Eisenhower quote, the former US president, of kind of planning is everything, but the plan itself is nothing. And that's true of, particularly in the context of ZeroCon, because it's really valuable to plan and have an idea of, okay, what do we want to do? And then you get that, it's like there's just this huge kind of wave that breaks, and you just sort of, you're in the moment, and you work really hard and you do your best, but it's kind of absolutely sort of frenetic in an absolutely way.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I noticed, and obviously a key part of what you guys did from a marketing point of view, was being noticeable. So at ZeroCon, and at anything you do really, but definitely at ZeroCon, and even all of the events that you did leading up to it. For example, photos with the outfit, that it's the knight outfit, right? You're dressed up as a knight. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Whose idea was that?
So for my sins, that was actually mine. Yeah. People always ask that of me. It's like, who made you do that? And then I have to sort of sheepishly admit, well, actually, no one made me. I chose to do this. So Chestnut has been a great kind of stalwart of us at ZeroCon. We're thinking we might kind of, what with the kind of the Addon Partner of the Year award now. We're thinking that it might be kind of time for him. I don't think he's a repeat ZeroCon kind of fixture.
Yes.
So when we go to kind of new ZeroCons and new events, I think potentially, who you never say never in future, but in terms of kind of our progression now, he maybe feels like having helped to secure Addon Partner of the Year, that maybe his work is done.
Yes, I like it, and I remember coming up with the idea when I was 16, 17. I used to, on the weekends, I used to sell chickens, meat chickens and eggs at the, not meat chicken, not eggs, meat chickens and lamb at the markets. My dad had an organic farm, and we would sell that on the weekends. And one weekend we were selling at Piermont Markets down near Star City in Sydney. It used to have a markets outside the casino there, and I came up with the idea of wearing a chicken suit and to walk around the markets that day giving away the flyers, and completely put my hand up for that one once I did. So yes, up with the suits, definitely works, and it works. So excellent, very good. Okay, so we've talked about being noticed and being noticeable, but also obviously having that lead up prior to creating some of that excitement and creating some of that passion, as you said, as for your product, and making a little bit of noise. I think before ZeroCon really makes a difference, and then once you're there, being a part of that process and planning to constantly be, I guess, consistent in relation to being out there and being one of those add-ons that's constantly photos, tweeting, being part of it, and all of those different things. I think that's something that you guys did really well with the interviews prior and all sorts of different things that you did that people really need to think about, that's something that they have to do when they're heading to ZeroCon as well. It's not just about just sticking up a stand and getting some names and hoping for the best. Follow-up was the key thing you mentioned too. So many people don't follow up. We haven't heard from so many add-ons since ZeroCon, afterwards, that they don't have that process in place, and you have to follow through all the way through. Otherwise it's almost not worth it.
I think that's right. I think that in advance, it's part and parcel of the excitement that people feel for the event.
Yes.
I remember going to kind of conferences and courses back when I was working in practice, and
yes.
It's sort of the idea of pre-event excitement was just would sound ludicrous, but I think it's recognizing that's not how people feel about Zero. It's a great testament to what Zero have created with it, but it truly is something that people get excited about and look forward to. And if you can tap into that and sort of intrinsically channel it, that's really important, I think.
Yes. Will you guys be coming to all of the ZeroCons this year? So
because they're in sort of quite quick succession over sort of August and September. So I think it's highly unlikely we'll be able to make kind of all of them. We're still to get into planning, but no, we rest assured we love a ZeroCon.
Yes.
As I think
Yes, excellent. Very good. One more thing, I guess, around the emerging markets and promotion and things, and something that obviously we've seen Zero do and many add-ons do recently is going into the US market and pushing into that market. And as you've mentioned already, the fact that you have a pretty international add-on, I guess, in terms of being able to cover many areas. It's not like you have to change your terminology too much and all those types of things you've mentioned already. Are you guys looking to push into the US market more? And do you have any tips for people that either you've seen people do it and do it too soon, or just what's your thoughts around that whole process? Because you can see some people sometimes appear to come undone trying to push too far to get that golden egg of all those people. But what does that really mean when it comes to doing it in reality?
Yeah, so my experience of the US as a market is big, hugely tantalizing, but equally big and expensive.
Yes.
As well. It's a sort of market that you can't do in half measures.
Yes.
So you kind of if you're in, you're all in on it. And I think that's the way that we look at it, as incredibly excited about the prospect of it in the same way that kind of, I guess, all sort of software companies are excited about the prospect of it, but very, very kind of conscious of the same way that we have our kind of standard of kind of relationship and experience that we really strive and pride ourselves on delivering.
Yes.
And make sure that we are not spreading ourselves too thin is really important to us. And the extent to which you can be spread too thin is always a byproduct of the denominator of size. So that's just something that we need to be, and we are consciously very, very mindful of. Yes.
Excellent. What are some of your features that you have coming up that you're super excited about that are on the roadmap now?
So we're really, in the larger sense, we're really excited about becoming. This sounds like a weird thing to say, but we're really excited about becoming more intelligent as a product. So
okay.
In the first instance, we're an incredibly effective tool and communication platform for the chasing process. The next paradigm for us is really around, because at the moment you've got the ability to easily use us. There's a lot of power in there, but you choose and you define it. For us, it's how do we. So in that sense, we're quite reactive at the moment as a product. How do we become proactive in serving you up the information, the insights to enable you to tailor us most effectively to get your invoices paid? So that's and I've seen this as an accountant and CFO, that it's so easy to assume that people know all of this stuff, but people have got so many things in this day. People the trend is only increasing in this regard, just in terms of like volume of information and distraction. So to assume that people know who their good paying customers and bad paying customers are, I think is really remiss, because they in all likelihood will not. And so setting up the insights and recommendations about how you might chase most effectively with us, so that you can then always, never, not us doing it for you, not you ceding control, but us intelligently advising you, providing you with the insights, and potentially providing an accountant and bookkeeper with the insights, so that they can best get the most out of us as a product.
Excellent. Okay. The word insight came up a lot for me today. I was running Zero User Hour here. I run it here in Australia for XU Magazine. And today's focus was all on reporting and on the reporting add-ons. And I had all the major reporting add-ons in there, all asking them who did what and give us your pitch in 140 characters and all sorts of things that I could think of to get information out, and help people compare the reporting add-ons. Insight was one of those things that just kept coming up. I think I kept writing the hashtag more insight, because that's obviously what that's about. Is there any of the reporting add-ons that you work with, that your clients work with now, that are those sort of complementary add-ons that are giving them some of that information? I'm sure Chaser yourselves would be able to build so much more very closely towards exactly what everybody needs. But is there anything that's working really well with your customers that you know of, if you have that conversation with them?
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't sort of tend to have. So I think the distinction for us is, I think I'd characterise that reporting as more sort of executive level, right? In terms of how are we as a business doing? Yes. I think when we talk about insight and intelligence, it's very much more on an operational level of. Okay. What do I actually, task-based, what should I do? How should I chase these particular customers, these particular invoices? So I think that was where, and they're absolutely, and that's the great thing about this ecosystem. They're absolutely complementary in that regard, but it's not about us building a reporting product, because there are other reporting products, again, do one thing really well, others that are really focused on that. For us, it's about it's the task based. How do we go about helping you chase most effectively? Kind of similar to, not that dissimilar to, obviously you look at the way Receipt Bank do it on the kind of the purchases and expenses side, the kind of the process and practice platform around that. How do you go about most expediently carrying out this operational task of getting information accurately into the accounting system? For us, it's how do you most expediently use us as a platform to get money into your bank account from your customers? Yes.
Excellent. Very cool. I think there's obviously that's a key difference between what I was mentioning with the reporting and what you were looking for. I think that's fantastic, and I think something I say to the add-ons a lot in a lot of the conversations I have is helping people with the how. You said before how many people really don't know they're good payers or they're bad payers, or really know the best way to chase, but giving them that information of how, and then breaking it down to a level, because you can help them understand their business because of some of the information you're either to gather or through your relationship with them, through questions you've asked, and all sorts of things that you can do. That's fantastic to see that you're basically giving them that roadmap or planning to give them that roadmap as to, this is where you are now, this is where you want to be, this is your roadmap to get there, and we can help you because we understand it, we do it with everybody. So that's very cool. All right, what would you do different if you had anything as sort of I suppose a bit of a final question? What would you do different if you over this time you've just won add-on of the year? We've covered so many areas that I think for me make complete sense as to why you have, and maybe you won't agree, but the sales and marketing that you've done from day one, being authentic, being passionate, being authentic, and being yourselves throughout the whole process, and just loving your product and being yourselves and not being afraid to be noticeable, all those things. Fantastic product, fantastic customer service, great reviews that meant the Addon was selling themselves, and then obviously building the relationships with the partners that you needed to build in the Xero ecosystem, and focusing on that one key area, I think is something huge. You've ticked all the boxes that I see that add-ons need to tick, and obviously got Addon of the Year to prove it as well. Is there anything that you would do different in hindsight, or anything else you think you did well?
No, I think we and I, especially within this, was a bit slow off the mark to really get into the depth of. So we talk about working with our accounting and bookkeeping partners. Mm-hmm. I think I was a bit slow off the mark to get into the what comes next, the process for introducing us to their client base. I think I was in retrospect, probably spent a bit too much time kind of further up that process, and not giving people the kind of we talk about the information to kind of know what to do. I think I was a bit slow off the mark with doing that. So I've got our kind of our three different ways of working with us as an accounting bookkeeping partner, which we call Communicate, which is we've got our partner program, and you see the benefits of Chaser as a product, and you want to introduce it to your clients, but once the introduction is done, you don't really want to have any involvement with it. You just want them to use it, and it's great. It'll be boosting their day-to-day, saving them time. That reflects really well upon you as an advisor. But in that, you don't really want to be having too much involvement in the legwork of how you do that. So within Communicate as a package, we will effectively kind of write all of the information and provide you with everything you need from a marketing campaign perspective. We can do webinars, that sort of thing, and obviously you curate it, so you have kind of veto. It's not like we take control of anything, but we provide you with everything, and you don't have to lift a finger other than just making sure you're happy with it and then pressing send, and it goes out. So that can be the really nice kind of light touch way of doing it. And then in the middle we've got what we call Advise, which is very similar to kind of Communicate in terms of we help you with how you go about disseminating the message about Chaser, but then potentially you'll deliver fee-generating advisory work on how to get the most out of the product on setup, because we have our support material and we'll have videos around it, but there is that context that comes with knowing your client that we can never have, that you as an advisor have that kind of that knowledge, that expertise to be able to advise them that relationship, how to best tailor the product. So Advise is slightly more involved in that sense, but then delivering the fee generating work on top of it. And then the third is Manage, which is actually delivering kind of credit control, debtor management as a service on top of us as a platform. There is now, because if we think about, frankly, not that long ago, and for a lot of businesses this is still the case, it would be impossible for anyone who doesn't sit at a desk within the office to be able to carry out kind of debtor management, credit control for that business. Now it's eminently possible, kind of with bank feeds and the ability for the bank account to be so regularly kind of up to date. I'm really excited to hear about the work Xero doing a kind of so Craig Walker talked about it at Xerocon London about how to do effectively automatic bank reconciliation in future. So the trend is only get more and more exciting in that regard. So there probably is the ability now for you as an advisor to deliver credit control or debtor management as a service to clients, and us playing a part as the platform underpinning that. So I think, again, if we did one thing differently, I think we would have got into the rump of, okay, what do those offerings look like, providing our partners as we do now with the wherewithal for them to go about delivering the benefits of Chaser in whichever of Communicate, Advise, or Manage, and potentially a mix of both. A mix of some of the above best suits them as a practice. I think we would have maybe done that a little bit earlier. But hey, we're doing it now.
Yes. No, that's fantastic. And I think you're doing exactly, as I said, almost everything you mention is things that either I've learned in my own business a long time, over time, 8 years ago, maybe 10, it must be 10 years ago now. And I was just starting out I was a trained accountant, starting out as a bookkeeper with absolutely no entrepreneurial sense at all, other than my dad's been an entrepreneur his whole life. So other than sort of watching bits and pieces there, it's I didn't really have no training whatsoever through the process, and it's just gone through learning and doing what needs to happen that we get to where we're going, and learn what to do from a sales and marketing point of view, from a customer service point of view, and all those areas that we've covered. So I think it's it's a very key, it's a beautiful thing to see you being able to put so many of those things into practice across so many different levels to be able to get to where you are, and even that breakdown of communicate, advise, and manage. I see so many add-ons not doing that and still struggling, just trying to work out what to do and call their partner program, and not being able to even implement it to that sort of with that sort of efficiency and focus, which is fantastic. You're doing exactly what the zero advisors need you to do, I think, as well as what you need to do to maintain it. So it's all perfect. Not that you need my approval, but it's certainly great to see someone really doing the right things. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, long way to go, and it's still just the beginning.
Yes, no, definitely. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years?
That's a really interesting question. I think, it's really about us becoming continuing to become sort of recognised best in class for chasing, and being able to take a slug out of that problem. So we talked about Metroline, and with the £60,000+ that we'd freed up cash flow for them, and we got another of our partners who kind of posted a review not that long before Xerocom, talked about kind of day-to-day reduction from sort of 100 days to 60 days for a client of his, and how that had freed up £30,000 of cash flow, and they'd hired a new salesperson, and that sort of virtuous circle. So I think really, at scale, just getting more and more of those kind of stories, more and more of those instances of where we've truly been able to, because ultimately, if we go back to that, so in the UK it's £67 billion overdue invoices, in Australia $19 billion at last count. And think about that as that's money that is effectively being clogged up from, I was a historian by degree, but I know like a tiny bit about economics, and that's money that should be flowing around the economy. Velocity of money is a huge driver of kind of economic activity and economic growth. And if we can take a significant chunk out of that, we're never going to get those numbers down to zero, right? Because if you've got a customer who owes you money, who's having cash flow problems themselves, the amount of chasing is ever going to make money magically appear in their bank account. But it's such a huge opportunity for us there to take slugs out of that and truly kind of catalyze economic growth and people's lives. So I think kind of doing a lot more of that at scale, and just seeing the impacts that we're able to deliver, hopefully bringing those kind of meta level numbers down.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And it's so great to hear you talking about your add-on and really making a difference in the world. I think so many people think an add-on's just there because they see an opportunity to go and make money to fill a gap in the market, when of course you can't build a great add-on that has longevity without having that real drive to really help people and make a difference in the world. And it's not just all about just making money, because that just never works. It just doesn't matter how you do it. This just doesn't work ongoing. So it's fantastic to see you've still got that passion. And imagine looking back, we looked forward 3 years, looking back to where you were 3 years ago. This was really just a thought, right?
Yeah. It was kind of just coming together as a thought. So well, it's interesting.
Pretty amazing.
That sort of sliding window. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic to see. Well, thank you so much for your time, David. I've loved chatting to you about all of the journey that Chase has been on, from just that little idea all the way through to what it is today, the UK add-on of the year, and growing here in Australia and everywhere else that Xero is. So it's fantastic to see everything that you're doing and to hear and learn what you've done throughout that whole process. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you so much for yours and Which Addon support. And well, we're speaking. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks, David. Bye.
Bye.